is Boxing Day, and as you can see, I've popped into work. I've popped into work for a cup of tea. But today, two things bother me. The first is I've burst my tea bag, and the other thing is all the panic buying Christmas does. Panic buying. All of the panic buying that we experience around Christmas, and as so many people point out, all this for one day's closure. Well, it turns out it's not. None of the shops are open today either. That now brings me on to the third point of annoyance for today. Why am I down here in the first place? Nobody's coming down. I'm not going to be cracking on with any work. It's already the afternoon, it's pointless being here. I haven't come down here just to have a cup of tea and to sit around in the caravan. No. My purpose for being here today is crime. Or at least the fear of crime. It's an everyday concern. Every day. You can't have a day without worrying about crime going on somewhere. And the trouble is, it's not like you're committing the crime, you're worried about the crime happening to you. Ow! Just imagine what our lives would be if crime wasn't a concern at all. I wouldn't just pop down to the yard to ensure no crime had happened if crime wasn't a concern in the first place. But it always is. Every day I come down and I pop my head around the corner looking like this. Has anything happened? And it hasn't. But it's the worry, it's the fear. Every single one of us has been affected by crime at some point, and we all live with the worry of it. We even have an institution dedicated to the cause of crime called the police, which many believe don't really do quite enough. But then again, they can only do what they've got to do. You know, there's more crime than there are people to deal with it. This might seem like a really obvious point, but I think crime should be dealt with. Dealt with better punishments. Do you know why? Over the years, of course, I, like many other people, have had to deal with people with a criminal side to them. And what you're supposed to do is turn a blind eye. And what you're also supposed to do is see no real harm in it because it's them. And also, it's a victimless crime, whatever that means. Especially stuff to do with cars. It's just a bit of fun. Don't be such a misery. And then again, of course, there's a whole business built on crime. I don't mean the mafia or the cartel or any of this kind of thingy. I mean security, CCTV cameras, which of course only capture criminals doing things, but don't actually stop them. And there's another point. Everything's on camera these days. Nobody can do anything anywhere without being seen doing it. So why are more people doing it? Maybe it's because they're just used to being seen. They don't fear even being caught because they know what they can get away with. These people going around stealing things, they know what the consequences are, and they figure out it's worth the risk because the consequences aren't that great. So they carry on doing it, and then they get a name for themselves. And then it doesn't really help when you have other people around that will say things like, oh, baby, you knew him, you know, he's got a heart of gold, you know, his heart's in the right place, he's doing this for all the right reasons. So then you have what are mostly young men engaging in criminal activities, supported by friends and family, and the same people, from my experience, then complain about the world that we live in and how you can't have anything these days. I'm going to have a gripe about something quite small here, but the stuff that directly affects me every day, all based on trying to combat crime. So the first one, locking wheel nuts for alloy wheels, radio codes, all of the car security stuff really, what I'm talking about here, are annoying things. Not things that destroy your life. Nobody's going to have their life destroyed because they've had to sell a car cheaply because the immobiliser decided to kick in. But it is just another thing amongst all of the other things that go on that you have to live your life around. We have to live our lives around other people taking stuff that doesn't belong to them. Car alarms. What do you think of car alarms going off in the middle of the night? A car alarm, the protective side of the car trying to look after itself against a criminal that's not even there. If your car alarm's going off in the middle of the night, you end up feeling really bad, and your neighbours get annoyed with you. Your neighbours get annoyed with you for your car alarm going off when the only reason you've got a car alarm in the first place is because of fear of it being stolen, which isn't going to be by you. In fact, it could be by them or somebody that they know, yet they're annoyed with you about it. I blame the Americans. Thanks to them, we now live in a culture where everything is somebody else's fault, including crimes. You can't even do something wrong without it being someone else's fault. What an unbelievably backwards world we live in. That's the problem with living in a society where everybody grows up so entitled. Things are only going to get worse though, aren't they? People are going to become even more entitled as they grow up into this world. And then the only way that we'll ever get around this problem of crime will be taking the law into your own hands, which is sounds like a terrible thing, but it's certainly a backward step. But at the moment, going forward isn't going forward, it's going backwards. So the only thing possibly would be to go backwards in order to go forwards. I never thought I'd ever say something like that.